Hello, everyone. Welcome to another series of mental well-being. Today, we will be exploring emotional and moral intelligence for a better well-being. Today, we got a special guest who is an expert in this subject, and her name is Dunya Mare. Dunya has been a long-time friend of mine, and I can introduce Dunya quite well, but I thought let me just give her the opportunity to introduce herself, where she comes from, her background. Dunya, over to you.
Hello, Rifki. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to always work together, no matter the context or the initiative. My name is Dunya, like you introduced me. I have been in Doha for almost 20 years. I carry around 27, 28 years of experience in the professional corporate life. I come from different backgrounds. I have worked across different industries and in few countries in Doha for the last 20. And in parallel to that, I have developed huge interest and studies and practice in holistic and integrative modalities for wellness and well-being. So by default, mental states, emotional, psychological states, emotional intelligence, moral intelligence are key elements and components of our overall well-being.
Thank you. This is something that you and I have been talking about over the many years that we've known each other. And we've always, we've learned from each other on this very same subject. And I can see that
Yes.
you've taken this quite fast. Just to show our viewers or explain to our viewers what is emotional intelligence and what is moral intelligence.
Let me take you a step back before we go into the distinction between both and think about how does it look like, for example, the corporate life. When we talk human or employees or professionals' well-being, what do you think is missing? We do wellness programs, especially after COVID. The focus now is on wellness, but still there is a core element missing, the conversations, the initiatives. You feel like there is a huge initiative and then the impact fades away as time passes on. People will be touched with practices or something adopted, but then again, there is no commitment. So when you think about it, what's wrong? What's missing? To me is as simple as the humane factor, how humanely I am as a human being. We have been rushing ourselves. So when you think emotional intelligence, so I go back now to definitions. I think there is not a professional person who hasn't read Goldman, the first name. His book, I think many people have been trained. Even HR has deployed some techniques, but still people are taking it to the surface level, or at least the organizations I worked with. What is missing is how you look at this intelligence. To me, it became kind of cliche. I see them as systems, operating systems, and they come in different layers. How integrated they are or disconnected. It's either they create resonance, alignment, or they split and create the conflict. For example, emotional intelligence is all about self-awareness, briefly, awareness of others, and how we can interpret my self-awareness and my awareness of others, how I can incorporate that or interpret that in reflected through my behavior, how I can extend empathy, embody it. So that's perfect. And then what? I'm aware. And we see people, I saw many people emotionally, they are advanced, but they are not morally aligned. So when I say I have this self-awareness and I'm aware of others, their emotions, their feelings, how the behavior could be interpreted with some kind of buffer so I don't personalize this and it impacts my social and my relationships. What do I do with these data? How can I build some kind of pattern and then interpret this pattern and make a shift in my behavior? Meanwhile, keeping an eye on how morally I feel. So when I say morally, briefly, it is my inner alignment. Whatever I'm living through in the reality around me is in alignment with me. Standards, values, belief systems. And by belief systems, it's not necessarily only religion. Religion is one of them. Spirituality is one of them. But belief system as in fairness, justice, equity, all of that is all about the belief systems. How aligned are we? How many situations you, me, and many others have been put through where we came across very well done, but there was a moral conflict. How did I survive that? What was the impact? At what cost? How did I recover? What did I learn from? How is the impact on my team, my leadership style, the performance? And then if we take that on a bigger level with time, how is the culture of the organization?
Yeah, I think you opened up a lot of areas that we could talk about. It's an integral part of leadership. A lot of the
Yes.
leaders, they tend to forget that as much as they want to make decisions, the moral cost or the emotional effect of that on people and on themselves, something that this program will reflect on, and will also help leaders to better evaluate themselves morally and emotionally as well.
Start with themselves. Let me ask you a question. If I am in during my job where we spend majority of our time, during my working day, if I feel grief for any kind of reason, if I feel anger, resentment, if I feel worry, fear, are they failure? Are
Mm.
they liabilities? Or they are like a navigation tool where I get to recalibrate and see how I can interpret that, what it is directing me to focus on something or prioritize something or watch out from something, or maybe to alter my choices. Maybe I chose something, but then I started to feel some kind of resentment towards my choice or decision. And then maybe that is where I need to focus. But mainly, not just the work environment, social network. Most of people are not allowing to feel or be present in a certain feeling. How am I processing that and holding the space for it? When we think it's something I need to suppress, something I need to get rid of, something I need to fix, instead of let me see where it sheds the light,
Yes.
where it focuses, and then I get to do something. Here,
Yeah.
where you deploy the awareness of the emotional intelligence and not violating yourself, your
Yeah.
inner conflict, where
Yeah.
you stand by yourself. So when you mix both, you will develop on the long run better immunity system. And the immunity system is not just physical. Physical is a huge thing. Many illnesses, many diseases are highlighted because of stress, chronic stress. So you can imagine mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual, even social, physical, all of that is going to be more immune to stress.
Yeah, true. That is very true. The wiser the leader, the better they are on emotional and moral intelligence, so that they're not too quick to judge one isolated incident. And I've seen that in the recent past, one emotional response of a colleague, or something that has been caught off guard, and then there is a reaction. There's a very quick judgment of that person. Oh, he doesn't, or he or she doesn't fit the culture, or he or she behaves in a certain way. And that's a bit too soon. One isolated incident does not warrant that. And you can't put together, like, pieces of this behavior this is what this is. That shows the lack of emotional intelligence and moral intelligence in that. That also paves the way for the second part. Today's holistic corporate world, to what extent is mental well-being genuinely woven into our culture?
I can tell from my exposure and collaboration with different projects and initiatives across different organizations on different scales in the private and the public. In comparison to, let's say, before the 2020, let's say 2022, 23 there is a leap. So the last 2 years, there is really a big leap. But I still do see people taking it on, I wouldn't say the surface level, but it's as if they are afraid to crack this open. They don't want to deal with what will surface. Probably because of the system is overloaded, people will be dependent. I'm not really sure. The different scenarios from different organizations, so I cannot really generalize. But in one organization, for example, because they are really overloaded, no one to tackle this or manage this if they are going to initiate it. And some other systems, it's not their priority. Why would I bother? Everything has been functioning and operating. Why would I bother? So I have seen that. So there are initiatives where you will find some organizations, for example, will dedicate a couple of hours monthly or bi-weekly for some kind of in-house activities. So I see organization where they will have some kind of body movements, certain stretching, breath work, some journaling, which is really amazing. That wasn't as spread or as common as before. So that is going on. I have seen couple, only two so far, where they brought specialists in-house. So it's like their headcount. They have a coach or a therapist for the well-being of the staff. And that is serious. That is deep because you have like it's like you have a doctor on board. So you have someone to look after you, to guide and support and hold the space whenever needed.
Thank you. So my exposure to this very subject that you spoke about is from two angles. One as a consultant in previous projects, and other one from a working perspective where I was employed with an organization. There is a lot of foundation work that is required, that we did rather, before we brought in coaches and we started rolling out. That is to get the culture ready towards, to have it neutralized. There are some cultures who are wonderful, very cooperative, very supportive. The leader only looks at the performance, the objectives are being done. So if there is some level of conflict, there is a gelling session where things are said and then it's let go, no grudges are kept. But and then I've also been in part where the culture is extremely toxic, where one spelling mistake, a typo, a comma out of place, ends up being shown and says, "Oh no, this person does not work this way," and that actually works against any emotional intelligence or mindfulness program that you want to implement. So what I feel is that the foundation has to be right. There's always um, this vibe that has to be neutralized.
Yes,
And there's this very popular saying where we call culture eats strategy for breakfast. So we have to have that culture right, and then start bringing in all of these emotional intelligence, wellness, remove the taboo, remove the misunderstanding of what this is, so that
yes.
this is seen as a company that is advancing towards performance, advancing as an organization, rather than bringing in something to satisfy some initiative, some KPI. It has to be genuine. It has to be something that people believe in.
Yes, I totally agree. I don't agree with life free of stress. I don't think that would be healthy. And stress, the way I choose to define it, it is what we make of it. And
Mm,
I always use the example of the trampoline. The trampoline is there. If you don't touch it, it's at the corner of the room.
mm,
Nothing is happening. The moment you start jumping, you will feel the pressure and the push
yeah,
and the pull. And the more you dive deep, the more it throws you
yeah,
out or higher. That is stress. So
yeah.
here, where I encourage people to go into defining what is causing you stress.
Mm,
What are your stressor factors? Some people, it's common. I think we will find across humanity common factors, but then it's individualized. Each person has their own unique stress factor, in
mm,
addition to what is common.
yeah.
Then here you would apply your moral and emotional intelligence as a person, because by the end of the day, the person is the core where you build the team and the organization and so on, the community and the nation and everything. So the person has to have this level of awareness. I need to understand why a certain thing is causing me that much stress. You will find because you prioritize a certain value, or you have a certain standard, or you have a certain perception and belief system. Can you redefine that? Probably yes. And by redefining is not altering the whole story, is not letting go. There is a huge distinction. And this is what I like always to distinguish between what it means to have moral and emotional intelligence. Most of people will think, especially with the social media, everyone is talking kind of randomly without structure and enough backed up evidence or scientific content. It's not withdrawal. It's not let go. It's not to stay zen all the time. No, it is to be aware of what's going on and then have conscious process that will lead you to a conscious choice. So if I am in a situation where I have to take a decision, I have to make it, and I'm not comfortable. But in my capacity, let's say as a parent, if I'm in my personal life, or as a friend or a sibling, or in my professional life, in my capacity as a professional, and that decision is in conflict with a certain value or a standard I believe in, I need to really look deep. This is where I always ask people, picture you have a remote control and pause for a few seconds. Step back, look at the big picture, capture everything. You know the situation, you know what is expected, and you become aware of the inner conflict. This is where you need to focus primarily. Inner conflict, because I have a certain belief. Is this belief up to date, or is it something that has expired and I have been just taking it for granted, moving on without really realizing I'm carrying baggage that has expired? So maybe it needs an upgrade and update. Or maybe it is the time where I really need to stand up for what I believe in. And it's not easy, but this is how you practice your genuine, authentic self, integrity. And that's a trait that's common to every human being. But if we speak leadership, that's it.
True, true. I think the next part of the segment is, how do we balance emotional and moral intelligence in mental well-being? This also opens up something where people have a choice, don't they? Do they safeguard themselves, what they believe in their belief system, in their models, or do they forego that for the sake of a promotion, for the sake of an increment, or to be good with the top? That's something which people shouldn't lose. It's important to safeguard what you believe in so that it doesn't change you. So it's not like those days. These days you have social media, you have different scenarios, different levels of external forces which swing you from time to time. It tests your faith, it tests your morals, it tests your intelligence at times. There are people who
Yes.
speak things which are not factual at all, but they have a certain way of convincing which affects a lot of things. I want to divert your attention to the emotional and moral intelligence in mental well-being. How do we balance it? I would like to say this is from two perspectives. One is from a leadership perspective, and then from an employee's perspective, because I think we have some viewers who want to know how to decide that. And I think you and I have the maturity, we've been through enough, and and talking to you, you are leading in this area.
Thank you. Okay. When we say the word compromise, what comes to the mind?
Do I look at how much I can get end of the month?
Or how much I give something to be
Mm,
able to get something? Because it's kind of trade-off.
yeah.
When you compromise, it means I'm letting go of something or a partial thing. I'm investing to a degree, but in return, there's something in it for me. So, would you call that something bad or good, negative or positive, healthy or not? I'm using the very common judgments I keep hearing from people when I coach and facilitate some trainings. No, 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 I don't compromise. Okay, that tells me there is a certain belief system. Here we go. Some people say, yeah, nothing wrong with compromising. And then when you look at the way they practice it, it's basically betraying themselves. They are not compromising. So it depends on the definition. We really
Yeah.
have to educate ourselves. What does it mean to compromise? Like anything in life, anything is what it is. What you make of it makes the whole difference. How you use it, how you deploy it, how you internalize it, and then how you project it makes all the difference. So the word compromising, I'm going to have a conscious, deliberate trade-off, which means I'm fully aware what I'm giving in to or giving up partially or totally and what I'm getting in return. Would that be bad? I don't think so. I personally don't think so. I'm totally neutral. I'm not pro or against. I am with what serves a person well-being. So if you are in a situation where you feel like now is the time to compromise, who am I to question that? Only you get to decide.
Mm,
So if you are asked to, for example, terminate a person, a staff, it's not an easy thing. I have been in HR, so I know what it takes to call someone in and tell them that they are being terminated. There is the rough way of doing it, and there is the humane way of doing it. By the end of the day, it's not my cup of tea. I don't
mm,
like it,
mm.
but it's part of the job.
Yeah.
Now I need to, if we call compromise. So I'm going to redefine. I consider everything. Why are we terminating this person?
Yeah.
What kind of support can I facilitate for this person? Meanwhile, for example, serving the notice period and afterwards maybe direct them somewhere else. And then how would I feel about it later on? So for any person, when you say the word leadership, every person, I encourage everyone to have it, whether you're a senior or a junior,
Mm.
because by the end of the day, if you don't know how to lead yourself, you won't be able to lead anyone.
Yeah.
At
True.
least you won't last doing that.
Yeah. Very true.
So, compromising is what indicates that a person is doing or making a conscious trade-off. They know what's in it for them, they know what
Mm.
they need to pay in advance to get that in return. But on the other hand, when I just follow the order or the instruction or the strategy or work with teams without having a say or leading a certain project or initiative which doesn't align with my belief, what is happening inside me? Exactly what we hear across,
Mm.
which is I'm dragging my feet going to work. I'm sitting for long hours, feeling the resentment, anger, the frustration, the disappointment. It reflects on my behavior with my colleagues. It reflects on my performance by the end of week, day, year, whatever. That tells me you're a person who doesn't know how to handle stress because initially, not because of the stress load, because you didn't connect with yourself, see morally where the alignment or the friction is taking place.
You're right. And I think that also allows our viewers to to reflect that there are some things which are worth holding on to, some things which they have to cut off from. As much as compromising is a challenge for many people, to what extent do they compromise? To what extent do they give up? I mean, that's like touching the line on the toxic culture. So if they are being challenged at that moment, yes, it becomes a bit difficult.
Yes, but what creates culture by the end of the day? At the core of it is individual behavior that is mirrored or replicated, and it infects. And with consistency and time, people committed to that behavior, it becomes a culture.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
It doesn't happen on its own.
It doesn't. Yeah, you're right. See, it's our role as leaders and as coaches for us to guide the people based on that. And it's a leadership role to guide the rest of the team. It becomes horrible to cope up with, to work in a place where the employees have a moral background. They have their checks and balances to make sure that they are doing things ethically, whether it affects their beliefs, whether it affects the company's values. But then when the ones at the top end up making decisions which are quite questionable or lacks transparency, that puts a big debate on the moral and ethical values and emotional intelligence that they have. Thank you very much for that, Dunya. So we're coming to the fifth component. How practical can we get with developing emotional and moral intelligence? How much do's and don'ts can we explain to our people? And what does reality demand?
I'm going to express my personal opinion and view on it, and then I will go into the objective side of it. Personally, I believe reality is what we create. So if I don't enjoy and feel happy with my reality, I'm not satisfied, I can go and create something else. This is how I believe any person, any human being is capable of doing that. You have been living a certain reality day in, day out, carrying on with your life. I did the same. Everyone did the same, whether we want to acknowledge that or not. Choosing choices, even if we believe we don't have a choice. That in itself a choice. And that will shape our reality. So if at any point in time, and that could happen several times in a lifespan, that I'm not happy with my life, I'm not satisfied with the current reality, the here and now doesn't resonate with me. So perfect. Now you started to become aware. Now you're a person who's connecting with what's inside you. Now you're listening. So that's not bad. Many people will interpret that like it's a bad thing, and why? Look around you, you have this, you have that, you accomplished. Don't undermine or underestimate any person's expression of how they are experiencing their reality, because who am I? Who's anyone to challenge that or question it? Everyone is entitled to that. So when I become face to face with the fact that I'm not enjoying my reality, and reality is too demanding, and maybe it has served me so far, maybe I have come really so far, but you know what, it's not going to carry me for the next stage, or I'm not going to be able to sustain that for too long. Then that means this is the moment you need to pause and reflect. And what causes really the biggest stress for me is when people live in ambiguity, not knowing themselves. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know what sparks my passion. I don't know what demotivate and switches me off. I don't know. And I would interpret any reaction I have like mood swings. And people would probably project that on me as well, because I don't embody a knowledge about myself, the way I carry myself. And it's like you're being on autopilot and you don't even know the code that you have been programmed on. I need to know at least what kind of program I'm autopiloting from time to time. That is emotional intelligence. That's self-awareness. That's psychological and mental awareness. And I think the whole world is buzzing with this now. When we integrate that with moral, then I come to know myself more. I know that my values, I can reshuffle. So for example, if it's fairness used to be value number one, the major code of my life. Maybe I am in a place in my life where it goes to three, and one and two are two different things. Nothing wrong with that, as long as I'm aware, as long as it aligns with how I feel, what I think, what I believe in. And then I carry myself. My behavior will start manifesting, materializing the reality I'm creating, or I'm happy with, or I'm complaining from. Knowing oneself, understanding oneself, and then choose what to do with this knowledge. If there is a pattern identified as not really helping or serving, I don't believe in right or wrong. I don't believe in positive and negative. I believe whether it serves or not. So if it's serving me, bravo, keep it up. How can I optimize on that? If it doesn't serve me, when I say serve me, I mean well-being and growth, in betterment. If it doesn't serve that, then that needs to be analyzed, maybe deconstructed, reconstructed in a different way, and maybe to be written off and something else to come in place. That is self-awareness. And most of people go through that in their life, different age, different stages. I do see the young adults graduating from universities going through that earlier than my generation, for example. And it's amazing how aware they are and how demanding their reality to be shaped in a certain way. And I encourage them to keep it up because at least they are catching up early, not really waiting for too long. It's really fascinating. When I integrate emotional, moral intelligence, there is a resonance. When you hear a certain tune with clarity, and that tune will touch you and touch everything in your life, that will carry the ripple of the same resonance. So even if you have a challenge, that challenge will not be stressful, or at least not the negative stress, not the chronic stress. It will be the stress like the weight you carry to when you are in the gym, that helps building the muscles, that helps keep you fit and have agility. Integrating, having this alignment is a key for my whole well-being, wherever I am, in whatever capacity I am. How could that be reflected in the corporate life or any aspect in life? So, for example, if I'm leading or embracing or embodying my self-awareness with my moral awareness and intelligence, which, if you remember at the beginning, I said that they are operating systems. So my systems are operating without glitch. It will be reflected in the way, the choices I make. It will be reflected in how I'm not crossing boundaries, how I respect boundaries, how my boundaries are being respected, how I deliver projects and strategies, how I lead teams, how the ethics and code of behaviors and conducts within the organization or families or communities are being modeled and replicated, lived, incarnated. On the other hand, if that is not happening, the opposite is totally happening. And it will reflect on the performance, it will reflect on the lack of sustainability. Now I think it's everyone's responsibility to decide, am I going to judge myself or assess whether I'm handling stress, or how far can I carry it without impacting me?
There's a lot to ponder on that. And as
Yep.
coaches, what was running through my mind is how much stress I've put on clients and senior management. The whole coaching, the whole education, the mentoring part has to be done very, very frequently because you have a lot of situations that shake your moral conscience, a lot
Absolutely.
of things that question your beliefs. So you have to have that reset. Like you just said, your analogy that you use when you're at the gym, you do weight training. That stress you can handle. The workload you can handle. Doing extra hours at work, for a week or maybe 2 weeks you can handle. But what people can't handle for too long, or what consumes them, is the toxicity. When the moral beliefs of an organization, when the moral beliefs that when people join what their setup was or the culture was, when that becomes overwhelming, that's when people start holding in. That's when people start to explode. They start giving in. They will have all kinds of mental issues.
But let's be honest, let's be brutally honest, Rifki. Isn't it a choice we make?
It is a choice we make. For some,
That,
it's like the tea. It's like the tea bag in hot water.
so it's a choice. We need to be really honest and own it. If you don't own it, you won't have the power over it.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm a person who has to work in this toxic environment, dealing with toxic people where I'm always insecure, not safe,
Yeah.
looking behind my back because I don't know where the stab would come from.
Mm.
I wouldn't be appreciated, not recognized. Possible. I think not a
Yeah.
single person hasn't experienced that.
True.
But if I choose to stay and keep doing what I'm doing, it is a choice. And it's
Yeah.
okay to think, but because I don't really have many options. Yes, true. That's part
Yeah.
of the reality.
Yeah.
I have responsibilities. I have family to look after and protect and provide. So those are part of our realities.
Mm.
As a human being, I need to acknowledge that to myself. So when I carry on, at least I start to put on the table. I'm not suppressing the resentment I feel towards this inner violation to my
Mm.
standards, to the lack of safety, to
Mm.
my values, because now I'm forced to do something.
Yeah.
But because I coach many people, management and juniors and seniors, women, you can cope. And coping is not bad. But like you just mentioned, coping will not take you far. Coping is to survive. In parallel, you need to develop options and try to have your exit. Because if that place doesn't take you in as you are and it applies pressure, that where you violate your inner alignment,
Yeah.
then it's time for you to take things in hands.
Yes.
Maybe if you carry on being where you are and you have the power and the means and resources to bring the change, by all means, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
But if you're the minority and you're
Yeah.
paying the huge cost from your well-being, I think that's the time where you need to maintain coping strategies and developing options.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's actually a choice. You're spot on that. I can choose to be sulky. I can choose to be down. I can choose to be negative once a
Absolutely.
situation becomes negative. Or I can choose to remind myself, no, wait a minute, it's not worth it. I'm not going to burn my blood over this. I'm off at 5 p.m. Let me go off, let me have a coffee or let me have a hot chocolate and then relax. That also reminds me that about our hot chocolate, our remedy for stress. And for us, it brings in a lot of memories, but at the same time, I want our viewers to know that they have to vent out and they have to do
Exactly.
what
Reach
relaxes them,
out.
what makes us happy. So,
Reach out, talk to someone you
exactly.
trust,
Yeah. Yeah.
vent. And if that person you're venting to is wise
Yeah.
enough to feed you back
Yes.
this
Exactly.
power and this
Mm.
steam, so you rechannel it and burn it as a fuel in a positive or healthier manner, then you're really lucky.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Spot on. I really hope the viewers pick up on this. As much as
Yes,
they face situations, they know how to mitigate it, how to make that decision, how to let
yes.
go. I want to take you to one more area before we conclude. So that is, what is the impact when we embody them both? The emotional intelligence part, the moral intelligence part.
When we embody both, for example, if the organization is lucky enough to have that on leadership senior level, you will have steadier leadership. You will have sustainable growth. You will have healthier behavior from people across, because it becomes your code, your essence as an organization. Anything that is not aligned with that would become odd and it wouldn't fit. So confidence that is healthy, quiet, but it is there and you resonate with it. Boundaries respected, so everyone feels safe. And with boundaries doesn't mean that I wouldn't say no, I wouldn't question. On the contrary, I would feel safe enough because of those boundaries to speak up my mind, to express, as long as we follow the basic code of express communication. Be
Yeah.
respectful, don't personalize it, highlight the
Exactly.
problem.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when we have the boundaries, by all means, it's like empowering you to do that.
Yeah.
So confidence, safety, boundaries, steadiness, sustainability. And when I talk sustainability from headcount, so you don't have turnover, high turnover, we're talking about business, image, reputation, how you become employer of choice.
Yeah. That you remind me of one of the strategies we used during the FIFA World Cup when we put our team together, because the project was so huge. What I told my team was ideas matter. So when you have an idea, run it past. So you have ideas from at least 50 plus people coming
Okay.
in, and then you have to evaluate everything one by one. Their question was, this is too much work. We have to decide on one path and take it forward. I said, hold on for a second. This has never been done in this country ever. This is the first time. It is the most compressed international mega event that's going to happen. You can't say that you can't go through all this work. And the analogy I used was, finding the golden idea is like finding the prince. You have to kiss 100 frogs to find that.
Yes.
And you have to evaluate those ideas. Actually, they laughed, then they got it.
Yes,
That
yes,
actually
but it
lightened the
makes
mood when I
sense.
said that. Exactly, yeah. This is where you have an open mind, where you understand. This is where your emotional intelligence, this is where your moral intelligence comes in. Do you stick with your ego saying that, oh, wait a minute, I'm the boss, I know what to do, I'm the head of training?
Yes.
Or do you listen to your staff and say, oh, no, wait a minute. How about we do it this way? Because, the recipients are the staff at the lower levels at the ground who work this way. And from the other side, the recipients are the spectators who get on board these buses. How will it reflect on them? So these are things that part of critical thinking where people actually reflect on. So so
Yes.
leaders have to listen to their people, let go of their ego, let emotions play. There is going to be disagreements. That's how golden ideas come from. If I tell you something and if you're just going to buy it, Dunya, there's no point working. You
Yeah.
have to challenge what I'm telling you.
At least to have the balance of having a challenging element.
Yeah.
You cannot have consent all the way, all the time. Then there, how would I know how resilient I am, how prepared I am when I'm faced with a challenge? I
Yeah.
wouldn't know because I have never been exposed to that. I'll tell you a simple example that was in one of the companies. One of the complaints were that from three, four departments, I can't remember the departments, but I remember one of them was HR and finance, and I don't remember the two other
Mm.
departments. But four or five people, they get together during the break or
Mm.
whatever, and they always picture the darkest what if scenarios. And it's
Mm.
all business related. And it impacted people, and they
Mm.
started complaining that they are being toxic, and what they are doing is really demotivating. We sometimes have the spark and the energy, but then when
Yeah.
we talk to them, it's like poof, deflating. I just asked the question, what would you do with this power in your organization? If you ask me, I will ask those people to make it as a periodic practice and get together and picture the darkest scenario, but you don't get to leave this discussion till you have the mitigation of it.
Yes.
And from this, you develop risk assessment, risk management, and you can deploy it. And that comes from what people think is toxic. Is toxic if it's let loose,
Mm.
no management, no handling. Use it in a good way. You have the risk management department, and you're ahead of others because you can picture every dark scenario and you have the mitigation plan ready.
Yeah. This is an essential part in critical thinking that we use in this
Exactly.
program. Yeah. Yeah. Thank
So
you.
again, we go into reframing
Yeah.
reality, reframing mindset, reframing
Yeah.
definitions, updating definitions.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you cannot do that without self-awareness. You cannot do
Exactly.
that without having periodic, seasonal, if you want to
Mm.
call it, inventory of your morals.
Mm.
Where I am when I was in my 20s, my morals were different than or priorities of morals were different in my 30s and 40s and so on.
Yeah.
When I worked in that environment, I discovered this about myself. When I was faced with that, I discovered this about myself. You have to have periodic inventory where I am,
Yeah.
who I am.
Yeah, true. And that's a good example of choice, Dunya. What you just said just now. You made a choice to learn and update and upgrade yourself. Your
Yes,
morals have become updated, your emotional intelligence have become updated. Like
yes,
how everything is, the situations push you, it pushes your boundaries, and then you regroup yourself. You
yes.
come to a point and say, no, wait a minute, I'm going to double check myself on this. Does it align with my morals? I think you very rightly and very nicely put that.
It's
So
like decluttering,
exactly,
but
yeah.
your internal systems.
Exactly, yeah. And then,
Yeah,
you reset yourself so
exactly.
that you can make clear decisions. There
Yes.
is this saying which I was told a few years back, never make decisions when you're angry and never make promises when you're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it when you're happy or in your love in love?
So we've come to the end of our session for today, and we do hope that we could have more sessions on this because I think this is a huge topic, and like you said, we've just scratched the surface, and there's a lot more to come for. So just to conclude, moral intelligence and emotional intelligence is something that we have to balance, that we have to reset ourselves with, that we have to learn and grow as we go along, and there's something where we have to test ourselves. It's a choice that we make. Do we succumb to it? Do we forego it? Do we sacrifice those, or do we compromise those standards that we have?
What do we learn about ourselves when we do any of that? If I
Yes.
succumb to something, what do I learn? And I cannot learn if I am very judgmental. Because that's like holding the whiplash and I'm just backlashing myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get the chance to learn why did I do that?
Mm.
What made me do this? How can I take it from there? How do I live with the outcome? How can I spare myself? Is it really bad? So we need to constantly learn and find out about ourselves.
True. And it also emphasizes the importance for education and training and then visible management commitment.
Yes,
It has to be incorporated into the leadership.
yes,
And that eventually incorporates it into the very fabric of the corporate culture.
absolutely.
So thank you very much for your time, Dunya. We want to have another program with you again, and I think our viewers will benefit immensely from this session that we had today.
And I would love to hear from people, their
Yes.
thoughts, their experiences. This is the purpose of it, to engage.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very important. The
Yeah,
comments and the questions, it'll help us address real situations which people face. Because the ones that you and I face, it goes deep, but then how many people would have faced those? I think those
Yes. And
comments.
like you said at the beginning, we learn from each other.
Exactly, yeah, very true.
We really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
And
me
I
too.
know you and I, we can keep talking for hours. So
Oh,
looking
yeah.
forward to the other
We
sessions.
have we have done that in the past on the recent content.
Yes.
So to our
Thank you for
viewers,
having me today.
happy to. To our viewers, I will drop in Dunia's LinkedIn link and Dunia's details on in the detailed description section. Please like, subscribe, and share so that many people can benefit from this. And there is more to come on this. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening, Rifki.
You too. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.